For 3,000 years, the galaxy knew peace. The Galactic Council ruled over hundreds of species, creating laws that kept wars from happening. Trade flourished, technology advanced, and civilizations thrived. Humanity was one of the younger races in the Council, but it had grown strong. It had spread across the stars, built powerful fleets, and settled hundreds of worlds. Some species respected humans. Others feared them. But for a long time, no one dared to challenge them. That changed when the Council accused humanity of breaking an ancient treaty. The message arrived on every human world at the same time. A simple, cold transmission from the Council. Humanity has violated the Treaty of Unity. The Council declares war. Surrender now, or be destroyed. The message shook the human worlds. Billions of people watched in disbelief. How could this be happening? There had been no warnings, no negotiations, just a declaration of war. On Earth, the leaders of humanity gathered in a high-security bunker. Generals, admirals, and politicians argued over the situation. Some demanded diplomacy. Others wanted to prepare for battle. "They've been looking for a reason to do this," an old admiral said, his voice heavy with anger. "They fear us. They know we're growing stronger." "But why now?" A younger diplomat asked. "We've followed every law, every rule. We haven't broken any treaty." The answer came an hour later. A Council fleet had attacked a human colony on the edge of known space. The planet's defenses stood no chance. In just 1 hour, the colony was burning. Millions of civilians, men, women, and children, were either dead or taken as prisoners. The message was clear. This was not about justice. This was not about treaties. This was about stopping humanity before it became too powerful. The Council's plan. The Galactic Council was made up of many powerful species. Together, they controlled the largest fleet in the galaxy. They had ruled for thousands of years, making sure no single race became too strong. Humanity had always been a problem for them. Humans expanded too fast. They invented new weapons, built stronger ships, and refused to follow orders blindly. So the Council waited. They let humanity grow, pretending to be allies. But in secret, they planned. They watched for the perfect moment to strike. And now, that moment had come. The Council believed that war would be quick. They thought humanity would surrender after a few battles. They were wrong. The first attack, the first wave of the Council's invasion came fast. Dozens of fleets jumped into human space, attacking colonies, trade routes, and military bases. The Council expected an easy victory. They expected humans to panic. But humanity did not panic. Instead, they fought back. A single human fleet, smaller and outgunned, ambushed the Council's forces near a gas giant. Using clever tactics, they lured the enemy ships into a dense asteroid field. The human ships, more agile and better adapted to the terrain, destroyed the Council fleet in a brutal, close-range battle. The news spread like wildfire. The Council had expected a short war, but now they had a real fight on their hands. The war begins. Across human space, factories switched to war production. Scientists worked day and night to improve weapons and defenses. Soldiers trained harder than ever before. Every man, woman, and child knew what was at stake. This was not just a war for survival. This was a war for the future of humanity. The Galactic Council had made a mistake. They thought they could end humanity with a simple declaration of war. They forgot one thing. Humans never give up. The war had begun. The Galactic Council believed it would end quickly. Their fleets were larger, their resources vast. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, crushing any threat before it could grow. To them, humanity was just another problem to be solved with force. But they underestimated the spirit of humans. The attack on Ridge 7. Ridge 7 was a small human colony, far from the core worlds. It was not a military base, just a mining outpost with a few thousand workers. but the Council chose it as their next target. A fleet of 20 Council warships arrived in the system, expecting no resistance. The plan was simple: destroy the colony, send a message to humanity. But when they reached Ridge 7, they found something unexpected. A single human warship was waiting for them. The Havoc, an older but heavily modified battleship, stood between the colony and the enemy fleet. Captain Reed, a veteran of many battles, commanded the ship. He had no backup, no reinforcements, but he did not intend to surrender. The Council commander laughed when he saw the lone human ship. "Foolish humans," he said. "They send one ship against 20. This war will be over soon." He ordered his fleet to attack. But Reed had other plans. A deadly trap. As the enemy ships moved in, the Havoc suddenly accelerated, straight toward them. The Council ships hesitated, confused by the reckless charge. That hesitation was their first mistake. Reed fired a barrage of missiles, not at the ships, but at a nearby asteroid field. The explosion sent thousands of sharp rocks flying in every direction. The smaller enemy ships were torn apart instantly. The larger ones took heavy damage. Then the Havoc disappeared. Where did it go? The Council commander shouted. The answer came too late. Using advanced cloaking technology, the human warship had slipped behind the enemy fleet. Reed fired everything he had at the largest ship, the Council flagship. The shields collapsed, and in seconds, the mighty warship exploded. Without their leader, the Council fleet panicked. Half of them tried to fight back. The other half fled. The Havoc hunted down the remaining ships, destroying them one by one. By the end of the battle, only one Council ship remained. Reed let it go, knowing that fear was a more powerful weapon than any gun. He wanted them to spread the message. Humans were not easy prey. Hope in the darkness. The victory at Ridge 7 shocked the galaxy. The Council had expected a fast war, but now they saw the truth. Humanity would not surrender. Across human space, the news spread. People who had once been afraid now felt hope. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked day and night to create new weapons. Engineers built new warships at record speed. Humanity was preparing for a long war. The Council's response. The Council was furious. They could not believe a single human ship had destroyed an entire fleet. This was a fluke, one of the Council leaders said. Their luck will run out. But some were not so sure. Humans fight differently, another leader warned. They are unpredictable, adaptable. If we do not crush them soon, we may never win. The Council decided to change tactics. Instead of attacking small colonies, they would strike at the heart of human space. Their next target was one of the largest human planets, New Terra. They sent a fleet of 1,000 warships to end the war in a single brutal attack. The coming storm. Humanity had won its first battle, but the war was far from over. As the Council's massive fleet moved toward New Terra, the leaders of humanity knew what was coming. This would not be a small skirmish. This would be a fight for survival. But humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they were ready. The war was just beginning. The Council's fleet moved like a storm through space, heading straight for New Terra, one of the largest and most important human colonies. 1,000 warships, each armed with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, were ready to bring destruction. The Council believed this would be the final battle. If they crushed New Terra, humanity would have no choice but to surrender. But they had forgotten one thing: humans never give up. The defense of New Terra. New Terra's leaders knew they could not fight the Council fleet in open space. The enemy had more ships, more firepower. A direct battle would mean certain defeat. So they prepared a different kind of fight. The planet's defense force, along with hundreds of volunteers, worked day and night. They turned cities into fortresses, underground tunnels into hidden bunkers, and factories into war machines. Every person on New Terra, young and old, prepared for battle. The human fleet, smaller but determined, hid within the asteroid belt near the planet. Their plan was simple: lure the Council in, strike fast, and make them regret ever coming. The battle begins. When the Council fleet arrived, they expected an easy fight. Their warships moved into position, preparing to bombard the planet's surface. But as soon as they entered orbit, something went wrong. A trap was waiting. From the asteroid belt, the human fleet attacked, launching waves of missiles and energy blasts. The first wave of Council ships was caught off guard. Explosions tore through their formations, breaking their perfect lines. Then the humans did something unexpected. Instead of fighting from a distance, they moved in close. Too close for the Council's heavy weapons to be effective. Human ships darted between enemy warships, using speed and agility to outmaneuver the larger Council vessels. One by one, enemy ships fell. The ground war. But the Council still had the numbers. Many of their warships survived the ambush and managed to land troops on the planet's surface. Millions of alien soldiers marched through the cities, expecting an easy victory. They were wrong. The people of New Terra fought with everything they had. Soldiers defended every street. Civilians turned into fighters, using homemade weapons, explosives, and whatever they could find. Snipers hid in buildings, taking out enemy officers. Ambushes struck from underground tunnels. Even children carried messages between resistance groups, helping their people stay one step ahead. The Council had the advantage in numbers and technology, but humans had something stronger: the will to fight. The moment of change. For days, the battle raged on. The Council fleet in space was losing to the smaller but smarter human fleet. On the ground, their soldiers were trapped in a war they had never trained for. They were used to easy victories, to enemies who surrendered quickly. But humans did not surrender. Then, something happened that changed everything. A Council warship, damaged and desperate, crashed into New Terra's largest city. The explosion wiped out an entire district, killing thousands. Among the dead were innocent families, people who had never held a weapon. The images spread across the galaxy, and suddenly, everything changed. Doubt spreads in the Council. For the first time, other alien species within the Council began to question the war. Was this truly justice? Was humanity really the enemy, or was the Council simply afraid of them? Some Council officers refused to continue fighting. They sent messages to their leaders, demanding an end to the war. A few even switched sides, secretly helping human forces. The Council's perfect unity began to crack. The aftermath. The battle for New Terra lasted 2 weeks. In the end, the Council's forces retreated. They had lost too many ships, too many soldiers. Their invasion had failed. New Terra still stood. It was a victory, but it came with a heavy cost. Cities were in ruins. Millions were dead. But despite the loss, one thing was clear: humanity was not going to break. The war was far from over, but now, for the first time, the Council feared they might lose. The Council's defeat at New Terra sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The war, which they thought would end in weeks, had now stretched into months. Humanity was still standing, still fighting. The Council had more ships, more soldiers, and more resources, but none of it mattered if they couldn't break humanity's spirit. And now, the humans were preparing to strike back. A new weapon. On a hidden research station deep in human space, scientists had been working on something new, something that could change the war. It was called the Phantom Drive. Unlike normal warp technology, which could be tracked, this new system allowed ships to jump across space without leaving a trace. They could appear anywhere, anytime, invisible until the moment they attacked. For the first time in the war, humanity had an advantage. Striking the heart of the enemy. The Council was still recovering from their failure at New Terra when the first Phantom Fleet launched its attack. Their target was Oron 5, a massive fuel station that supplied nearly half of the Council's warships. The Council never saw them coming. One moment, Oron 5 was running smoothly. The next, explosions tore through the station. Human warships appeared out of nowhere, destroying the enemy's supply lines before vanishing again. In just a few hours, one of the Council's most important bases was gone. Panic spread through the Council's forces. If the humans could attack anywhere, at any time, nowhere was safe. Cracks in the Council. The destruction of Oron 5 was more than just a military loss. It created fear. Many of the Council's member species had already begun questioning the war. They had been told that humanity would fall easily. Instead, they had seen brave soldiers, fierce resistance, and now, unstoppable attacks. Some Council worlds started pulling their support. They refused to send more troops. They feared that their own planets could be next. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Council's unity was breaking. Betrayal from within. Deep within the Council's leadership, some officials had secretly begun talks with humanity. They wanted an end to the war. They knew that every day humanity survived, the Council's power weakened. Some even feared that if the war continued, humanity might one day conquer them. But not everyone agreed. Many of the Council's top leaders still hated humanity. They saw humans as a disease, a threat that must be wiped out completely. One of them, High Commander Vorik, ordered a desperate plan. If we cannot crush them in battle, we will make them suffer. We will burn their worlds, destroy their cities, and leave nothing behind. The war was about to become even more brutal. The massacre of Vega 9. The Council launched a massive assault on Vega 9, a peaceful human colony with no military presence. They did not come to fight soldiers. They came to send a message. Thousands of enemy ships surrounded the planet and bombarded the surface from orbit. Cities burned. Innocent people ran for shelter, but there was none. Over 50 million humans died in a single day. The images of Vega 9's destruction spread across the galaxy. The Council believed this would break humanity's spirit, but they had made a terrible mistake. The final straw. The massacre of Vega 9 did not make humanity weaker. It made them angrier. Before, many humans had believed in the possibility of peace, but now peace was no longer an option. Now, the war had become personal. Every soldier, every pilot, every scientist, everyone was ready to do whatever it took to win. Factories doubled production. Scientists worked faster. Spies infiltrated enemy ranks. The war was no longer about survival. It was about vengeance. And for the first time, the Council was afraid. They had started this war. But now, they were beginning to realize they might not survive it. The massacre of Vega 9 had changed everything. Before, humanity had fought for survival. Now, they fought for revenge. No more defense. No more waiting. It was time to bring the war to the enemy. The Phantom War begins. With the Phantom Drive, human warships could now strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. They did not attack planets or civilians. They targeted the Council's war machine, fuel stations, shipyards, supply lines, and command centers. Every night, the Council's leaders went to sleep fearing the same thing. Where will the humans strike next? The fall of Doran 6. One of the biggest shipyards in the galaxy was located on Doran 6. It built hundreds of warships every month, supplying the Council's navy. The Council knew it was a target, so they surrounded it with massive defenses, gun turrets, shield generators, and a fleet of warships. They thought it was safe. They were wrong. One night, without warning, human warships appeared above Doran 6. They attacked with unmatched precision, striking the shield generators first. Within minutes, the entire defense system collapsed. The human fleet then bombed the shipyards, reducing them to nothing but fire and ash. Before the Council fleet could react, the humans were gone, vanished into the darkness of space. Doran 6 was no more. Fear spreads. The destruction of Doran 6 sent shockwaves across the Council. Warships could be replaced. Soldiers could be trained. But fear was something they could not control. For the first time, The Council's soldiers hesitated before going into battle. Pilots were afraid to patrol deep space. Governors of Council worlds started secretly negotiating with humanity to save themselves. The Council, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was now on the defensive. A desperate plan. High Commander Vork, the Council's most ruthless leader, saw the war slipping out of their hands. "We cannot fight them like this," he growled. "We must draw them into one final battle and end this war forever." The plan was simple but deadly. The Council sent false intelligence to human spies, making it seem like their main fleet was gathering at Karman 3, a remote system at the edge of the galaxy. The trap was set. If the humans attacked, they would be walking into an ambush. The Battle of Karman 3. The Council's plan almost worked. A large human fleet arrived at Karman 3, expecting to find an enemy base. Instead, they found hundreds of Council warships waiting for them. It was the largest battle of the war. Lasers and missiles lit up space. Ships exploded in every direction. The human fleet was outnumbered, but they fought with unmatched fury. At first, it seemed like the Council had the upper hand. Their sheer numbers pushed the humans back. But then, something unexpected happened. A betrayal from within. As the battle raged on, several Council warships suddenly turned against their own fleet. For months, some alien species within the Council had been questioning the war. Now they made their choice. They sided with humanity. They fired on their own ships, causing chaos among the Council ranks. The ambush had backfired. With the enemy confused and divided, the human fleet pushed forward. Destroying the remaining warships, the Council's forces collapsed. The battle was won. The war's final stage. The defeat at Karman 3 was a death blow to the Council's power. Their fleet was shattered. Their allies were abandoning them. Their leaders were running out of options. Humanity, once seen as weak, was now unstoppable. The war was reaching its final stage. And soon, the Council would face the same choice they once gave to humanity: surrender or be destroyed. The Council was falling apart. The war that was supposed to end in days had now dragged on for months. Their fleets were broken, their allies were abandoning them, and fear spread through their ranks like a plague. But the Council's leaders still refused to surrender. High Commander Vork stood in the Great War Chamber, surrounded by the last of his loyal officers. His face was grim. His voice was sharp. "We will not beg the humans for mercy," he declared. "We will fight until our last breath." It was a desperate gamble. With most of their forces gone, the Council gathered every remaining warship and retreated to their homeworld, Thyros, turning it into a massive fortress. Their plan was simple: hold the planet at all costs. If they could survive long enough, maybe they could rebuild. Maybe they could find a way to turn the war around. But deep down, they knew the truth. Humanity was coming. The final fleet moves. Across the galaxy, human fleets gathered for the final attack. Every soldier, every pilot, every ship that could fight was prepared. This was the moment they had been waiting for. For Vega 9. For New Terra. For every human life lost in this war. The fleet, now larger than ever, moved toward Thyros like a storm. The Council's final stronghold was about to fall. The Siege of Thyros. As soon as the human fleet arrived, the battle began. The Council had turned Thyros into a fortress. Its skies were filled with warships, its surface covered in anti-air defenses, its capital surrounded by energy shields. But none of it mattered. Human warships, equipped with phantom drives, struck from unexpected angles, disabling enemy defenses. Stealth bombers broke through the shields, hitting key military targets. On the ground, elite human forces landed in dropships, fighting their way through the Council's last soldiers. Street by street, building by building, they pushed forward. The once mighty Council was on its knees. The end of the Council. Inside the Council's grand palace, Vork stood with his remaining commanders. The sounds of battle grew closer. Is this how it ends? One officer whispered. Vorik clenched his fists. No, we do not surrender. But before they could act, the doors burst open. A team of human soldiers stormed in, their weapons raised. The fight was over. The Council was finished. A choice for humanity. With the Council defeated, the galaxy held its breath. Would humanity seek peace or revenge? Some humans wanted total destruction. They wanted to burn every Council world, just as Vega 9 had burned. But humanity was not like the Council. Instead of extermination, they gave the remaining alien species a choice. Join the new order or be left behind. Most chose to join. They had seen what humanity could do. They had seen their strength, their power, their refusal to break. A new era begins. The war was over. The Council's empire was gone. In its place, humanity rose as the new power of the galaxy. No longer the underdogs. No longer the outsiders. Humanity had won. And this was just the beginning. The war was over. The Council, once the greatest power in the galaxy, had been defeated. Their homeworld, Phanxyros, was under human control. Their armies had surrendered. Their leaders were either captured or dead. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy belonged to someone new. Humanity had won. The aftermath of war. The victory did not come without cost. Millions of humans had died in battle. Cities had been destroyed. Families had been torn apart. But humanity had proven something the galaxy would never forget. They were not weak. They were not to be underestimated. And they would never be oppressed again. The fate of the Council. With their empire shattered, the remaining Council species begged for mercy. Some had fought against humanity until the end. Others had turned against the Council and helped the humans in the final battles. Now, they all faced the same question. What would humanity do with them? Many humans wanted revenge. They remembered Vega 9, where millions of innocents had died. They wanted the Council's worlds to burn as theirs had. But humanity did something the Council never would have. They gave them a choice. You can live under our rule, or you can leave and never return. Some species refused to be ruled by humans. They took their remaining ships and fled into the unknown parts of space. But most of them knew the truth. Humanity was now the dominant force in the galaxy. So they stayed. The new galactic order. With the Council gone, humanity took its place. They did not rule with fear. They did not enslave other species. Instead, they built something new, a system where every species had a voice, but humanity's voice was the loudest. They rebuilt planets that had been destroyed. They helped former enemies recover from the war. But they made one thing clear to the galaxy. We will never be weak again. A warning to the future. In the heart of what was once the Council's homeworld, a new monument was built. A single message was written on it, in every language of the galaxy. We did not start this war, but we finished it. It was a reminder, a warning. For 3,000 years, the Council had ruled with arrogance, believing no one could challenge them. Now, humanity stood in their place, and they would never make the same mistake. A new era begins. With the war behind them, humanity looked toward the future. The galaxy was vast, filled with endless possibilities. New alliances, new enemies, new discoveries. Humanity had risen from the bottom to the very top. And now, the real journey was about to begin.